Welcome to the Family Law Growth Podcast. We interview the nation's fastest growing family law firms to get insights on what is working today. We leave no stone unturned, from intake to the biggest mistakes they've made while scaling to multi-7 figures and 8 figures. I'm your host, Elliot, co-founder of Empirical 360. Let's dive into the episode. All right, so welcome to the next episode here of the Family Law Growth Podcast. We are joined by Hembree Bell in Texas. So Hannah has been an amazing person I've learned a ton from when it comes to how family law works, because I've listened to all of her videos and I've seen how her firm has evolved. So Hannah, can you introduce yourself to our audience?
Hey, everybody. Hannah Hembree Bell here with one of my besties, as my 4-year-old would say, Elliot. And so, I help marriages end well in the greater Austin and San Antonio areas in Texas. And I lead an online community called The Circle, where we help guide women through divorce and beyond. So I sort of wear those two hats. So I spend most of my daytime hours managing the legal team, the law firm, where we're based primarily in Austin. We're about half remote, half in person, maybe 60-40 in person here in the office. And that's when I'm like not texting Elliot all my questions all the time. I mean, I laugh because he was talking about how he's watched all my videos, and I've made a few at this point. But I have no doubt that Elliot could give my community and separate property little spiel and how I explain it using a number line in his sleep. I won't put you on the spot to do it, but I know that you could do it.
I definitely can. Like I said, I've learned a ton about divorce listening to Hannah's videos, which is why I can talk about it. So do you want to give the listeners here an idea, just because I think it's helpful to understand, if I'm going to listen to somebody, I want to know, are they at where I'm trying to go? And then it helps understand like the stats. So can you give us a lay of the land of the firm, how many people you have, what the sales team looks like, just kind of a lay of the land of what the firm looks like as it is? You already kind of gave us the 50 people roughly, but what does the firm look like?
Yeah, so we're inching up on 50 people. And y'all, I have grown a lot in every way you can mean the word growth over the past few years. And I do it with such gratefulness and humility, and know that every day I'm learning something new. So like I, had some hesitation even saying like, yeah, sure, Elliot, I'll talk to you anytime, day or night. Going on a podcast and talking about my firm, I don't want anybody to get the impression that there's any sort of bragging. That we all know those firms that want to tell you all of their revenue numbers and da 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 da. And I just sit there and I'm like, oh, cringe. Like, that's not the point. And what I'm proud of, and the metrics I'm really proud of, is the amazing team that we've built of, I think, 45, let's just say 45 for now, because I don't want to overstate people. We're always adding new people to the team. And we have developed an amazing culture at the firm. And that is what I'm most proud of, because what that does is help us support the clients ending their marriage as well. Everything we do is purpose-driven. I'm a purpose-driven person. I don't get an ego hit off all the numbers. I mean, it feels good to succeed. Who doesn't like to win, But that is just not why I do this. I have had a COO for the past, I guess, three and a half years. And we're going through a transition. It's very mutual. It's very amicable and everything. It's just time. My COO, Denise, who I adore, she has been remote. And we really are getting to the space that we want somebody in person. So that's been interesting, Elliot. We're doing interviews, and the people who've applied for that role are incredible. Like I've had some of the most amazing conversations over the last couple of weeks. And I think what they're drawn to is, we see this whole thing a little bit differently. Don't take ourselves too seriously. Have a lot of big ideas for the future and things that we're growing into. And I think they've been drawn to that. But anyway, so I've got a marketing director and a human resources director. So some director levels. We're looking at bringing in the new COO. I've got 3 mid-level manager sorts in the legal team. So 2 senior attorneys is what I call them, and a paralegal who's trained as a lawyer, who's amazing. And we have a billing. I'm not quite sure what Kim's title is. As far as I'm concerned, billing czar. I don't know exactly what it is. And she's got 2 people under her. We have 12 lawyers and I think 10 paralegals. We're actively recruiting. I think we've got 3 legal assistants recruiting in that role. And then as far as getting new families into the firm, we call that the intake side of the house. I found that some lawyers have a allergic reaction to the word sales. I don't. I think sales is just helping people, but some people really see it as kind of a dirty word. So on that side of the house, we have 4 non-attorney salespeople, 2 intake people. Oh, and Elliot, I took your advice from one of the meetups that we had recently with other law firm owners, because I work with Elliot and his crew with Empirical 360. I am an OG. I am their literal number 1 fan ever in the history of ever. We've really built our firms alongside each other. But anyway, I took one of your pieces of advice, and we just onboarded today a setter, someone to call from the Philippines to call all the people who've reached out to the firm, but it's kind of gone cold. That lead, right? We call it a lead. Someone who's reached out to the firm, that's a lead. It doesn't dehumanize them or make their problem commoditized, but a lead that's over like 90 days or whatever. And she has a high KPI and lots of calls to make. And she started today. So that advice you gave, we immediately started doing it. Let's see. I've got a suite of people that help me at the firm. I'm not one of these lawyers or business owners who is like, has a hard time delegating. No, sir. I'm like, oh, you have a pulse and you can do this? Here, it's officially yours, except for like a couple other things. And that's gotten me into a lot of trouble. This is not the way. There is a much better way to do that. Do not do that, but that's how I am. And anyway, so it takes a lot of people to make this all run. I use Synergy as a group for my fractional CFO and controller services. Christopher Anderson is my trusted business advisor and get a lot of help and support from him on basically a daily basis. Let's see what else. I work with Jennifer Reardon and them out in California, Brown Sterling for tax advisory services. Really, really enjoy that relationship. So it takes a real village to do this. I have a bit and within our marketing department, we have a couple people underneath the marketing director. One is a business development person who's out there developing new business referral kind of focused. And then one who helps if you get any of our emails or see any of our stuff and it looks pretty, that's because Miss Tara did it. So we have that in-house and she helps with a lot of internal stuff. HR director has a support person. I'm trying to make sure I'm not forgetting anybody in my brain, but that's kind of how we're made up.
So that actually helps a lot, right? A lot of people see the exciting big numbers and the number of cases per month, but they don't understand how much work and how much stuff goes into it, which is what we want to unpack in an episode like this, right? So can we rewind, if you can remember this time, back in the day to where you didn't have consistent leads, you didn't have consistent marketing. What was your first source of like clients that you would get?
Referrals. Back in the beginning, I had worked in big law right out of law school. And so I had a connection, a group in San Antonio of people that I was familiar with and comfortable with. And really people from my childhood, my very first client ever was friends with my younger sister. And she needed help in a custody case. So that's my very first client. I got started. And then from there, it was only referrals in the beginning.
All right, I hope you're enjoying the episode. So if you are struggling to grow your family law firm and you would love to be in the room with other 7-figure and 8-figure family law firms, like some of the guests we have on this podcast, go ahead and click the link in the description and you can learn about our workshops that we do. So we do workshops every single quarter with family law firms where we dive into marketing and non-attorney sales specifically for family law firms. Now, what's awesome about these workshops is you get to learn from people actually doing it, so 8-figure family law firm owners, and then you get to break off into small groups and pick the brain of the subject matter experts that actually do the function that you're trying to solve for. So if you want to come to one of our workshops, go ahead and book a call. We'll chat about it. I'll let you know when the next one is and see if it's worth coming out to. And what did you do to like get more, right? Because some of the people listening, right, they might be getting, 3 or 4 a month and they're trying to either take that leap into digital or they're trying to, boost their referral pipeline. What strategies did you have in the beginning of like trying to boost your referral pipeline?
Yeah, back in the beginning, y'all, I started my firm with a lot of grit and chutzpah. And I probably should have had somebody conk me on the head with a frying pan and say, you need a plan. I had no plan. I borrowed $10,000 from my now husband, Drew, who was then my boyfriend, like after my divorce and everything. And $10,000 I borrowed from him. That's how I started the firm. And that $10,000, Elliot, was not for expenses. It was like my own living expenses. There was no cash for like ads or anything. I needed to pay for Westlaw, and I needed to pay for malpractice insurance. And that was pretty much it. I don't think I even had a website back then, but that's the first thing I did in my own journey. Was Dustin Sanchez, great guy in Houston, slid into not even my DMs, but he's a clever fella, into my comments on my LinkedIn. And I would probably, if I was starting all over again, take a page from his book, and I would slide into comments of other people's posts and say stuff. And Dustin did that for a while and got my attention. Like, who is this guy? Well, and not these ones who like say one thing and then they move on, but he did it over a period of time. And that's how I got started. The phone, that was in the paid universe. I can't even remember exactly what we did, but that started the process with spending some money, got the website going, got a little bit of the phone ringing. And as far as referrals, so I lived in San Antonio when I started the firm, and it was 6 months when I worked down there. And I knew I was going to be moving because I was getting married, and my now husband, my going to be husband then, Drew, his job was in Austin. And I'd always told him, because he used to live in DC, I was like, if you ever get to Austin, I will eventually get up there. So I needed to get moved. So I was in this also weird spot of getting new clients where I lived, but I knew I was moving, and that was kind of a funky spot. But I am a natural networker, natural people connector. So I probably have a natural leg up to some folks. Like I don't discredit that, but you got to use what you got. You got to leverage. All of y'all listen and have something that I don't have. And Elliot has a lot of things that I don't have. And I have some things that Elliot doesn't, and vice, for all of us. And it's my belief, like, your purpose in life is to become the youest you. And if we extrapolate that, I believe you will succeed in your firm when you're being the youest you. If this is what you're meant to do. I mean, some people, maybe you're not meant to own a law firm, no offense. But that you may be on a path that you decide, okay, ultimately I need to work for someone else. And that's okay. Like there's no like medal for those of us who do this. And in fact, you got to really want to do it, because there's a lot of heartache. You spend a lot of time kind of getting your teeth kicked in until they do start to get easier. But way back then in the beginning, building up the referrals, I kind of built that network over the couple years prior. And then people knew I was doing family law. And then I started with Dustin, a little bit of paid ads and a website. And then as that kind of grew, I got in Scorpion's world, and they kind of put a target on me and pursued it. We switched over to Scorpion. They got James over there. Man, he is a lethal weapon. I always say that. And I was with them for a year or two. I can't remember how long. And that's when I started to get pretty regular phone calls, and I started to up the game in terms of growth. That was relatively early on, but it was at least a year or so in, I think.
So you kind of went from the referral to the digital world. And then when did you, because a lot of attorneys, I feel like a lot of family law attorneys get stuck in this, they start to get full on work. And then it's like, well, now I got to go do the work that I just generated. So what did it look like when you made the switch from I'm going to be a lawyer to I'm going to start getting more clients than I can probably handle and make the jump into running the business? What was your thought process around that, and how did you actually do it?
It is like riding two horses with one butt is the best way to say it. I don't know if we can say cuss words on the show.
Yeah, you can do that.
Okay. It's like riding two horses with one ass. All right. And trying to run a firm while you're trying to be a really good lawyer. You're not going to be able to do that too well for too long. You just can't. You have to do it for a period as you get going. My advice would be to hire earlier and more often than you think. And you got to keep in mind, everybody, you don't have to be able to pay this person's entire year of salary from day one. Can you get them going? Do you have like 2 months worth of money? Or even a month? Because then they're going to start billing and doing something, or you're going to have to fire them, and they will help pay for themselves. But that leap of faith is hard. I think for me, pretty early on, I knew I can't do this all by myself. My sister was my sort of back office and intake and finance and everything. And then I had done the firm for a little bit, and I was a few months in, I want to say maybe 6 months in, maybe longer than that, 9 months in, something like that. And I realized I was like 4 months behind on time entry. And everybody who's ever done that is like, you should never let, I'm like, yeah, I know I should never let that happen, but I got myself in a pickle. Okay. And I was busy doing the work. So my mom came and worked for me and started entering my time. And that was the first thing. I think that's the most important. I mean, besides my sister started this with me. So I started with someone. And then next, getting my mom to enter my time every day so that bills could run on time. That was the first real sort of like system level up. And then after that, I'm trying to think. I mean, I knew really quickly I needed a paralegal. I knew that because I saw these other family lawyers had all these other paralegals and they seemed awesome. And I'm like, I need that. And I tried the route of 1099 contractor. People were doing it less then than they do now. Remember, this was like in 2018, 19. But now people do it all the time. But back then it was, found a few, and that's how I got started. And then you sort of duct tape, like I think of a line of elephants with their trunks and tails, like elephant tails and trunks. Like you just sort of add the next elephant to the line. And the key thing that I think worked for me is I didn't let any hiring failures be an excuse for why hiring wasn't going to work for me. Like y'all, it's sort of like dating. If you were going to do it all over again, a lot of us listening are probably already married or whatever, but pretend you were going back out there tomorrow. You think you're going to meet one person and that's it. I mean, it could happen, but it's unlikely. That doesn't mean you stop going on dates. And I think people, they want a reason to like blame or say why everybody else has been lying to them and it's not really true and nobody's hot, applying for jobs, blah, blah, blah. And I think if we're honest, that's probably some excuse making because you got to get back in there. You're going to get hit in the head. Just like put your gloves up next time and get back in there and get back in there. And I just kept getting back in there over and I made tons of hiring mistakes, tons of employment related, like onboarding, offboarding mistakes, but I just kept going at it. And I don't know why. I think more than anything at the time, it was survival. I'm good at bringing in business. So a lot of business was coming in. I have to do the work because I'm a responsible person and a good lawyer. Like I can't leave these people hanging. So necessity made me do it probably more than anything.
So and this is a really good point. A lot of firms, right? A lot of family firms specifically, because you can start drowning pretty quick. They get in this mode where they bring in the business and then they shut down or they'll just start rejecting clients. What did you always have I want to be a massive firm mindset? Or did you just think like, what was your initial mindset? And then what was the change to be like, okay, it's time to grow?
Elliot.
Like, what made you think you wanted to grow?
Elliot, you're giving me too much credit. My initial mindset was, I think I could do this. I think I could start a family law firm. I really want to help people because I've been through my own messy divorce and custody situation. If you've been on the internet and you're within my circle, believe me, if you're listening to this podcast, I'm sure our paths have already crossed more than likely just from the empirical ads. But I really wanted to help people and like felt called to it. I made it through these deep, dark, dense woods. And I'm the sort of person who goes back and creates a path for everybody behind me. So that was that. I had literally no plan. And the money I borrowed from Drew was just to pay my bills. We were just dating then, I think that's right. Maybe he was my fiance by then. I had no plan whatsoever whenever I started. So was I like thinking of scaling? I didn't even know what the word scaling meant. Like you say it, you Hormozy heads, like it's like obvious. And like there's a whole world who has no idea what offers mean and scaling means, like just so y'all know. But anyway, I wanted to start it and I wanted to do good. I always wanted to do a good job. I'm one of those people who's always made A's in school and like I'm an achiever. So I wanted to do a good job and I didn't want to disappoint anybody or anybody be mad at me. And I didn't even think about what do I want this firm to look like. I didn't even think about I didn't think any of those thoughts. It was just like, I think I want to be a family lawyer. And I guess in my mind, it's like me and my sister and like an assistant. I probably thought there'd be the three of us, like ever-ish, maybe. I literally gave it no thought about, I didn't have any world of CFOs. I wasn't in law firm universe. I worked at a big law firm and I knew that I wanted to give this other thing a shot. So I think the better or more accurate question would be, when did I go from only survival mode, right? Because that's what I was in. And probably a lot of people listening, they can relate to that. They left wherever they were and started this firm to survive in some way. And once you get used to that way, it can trap you for the rest of your life. You can live on survival mode for the rest of forever if you want, or there are other options. And I think for me, it was more my attitude for so long has been, and it's not even that wrong of how I feel today. Like I look around and I'm like, oh my God. Like some part of me thought, maybe I could barely squeak by and make it when I started. That's what I thought. I thought, okay, I think I can do this. Like kind of break even-y. All I really wanted to do was make the same amount of money that I'd made when I left the big law firm, which is 150,000-ish, 155 net. I didn't even care about the gross, like the net amount. So I can do math. And I was like, I think I can do that. I had no idea what I was actually saying, but at the time, I was like, I think I can do that. So I really just wanted to replace, that was the goal, replace the money. And then it's like, it just started doing really good, kind of quick. And I was like, oh. And then again, I was just back in this hamster wheel of like, oh God, all these clients. Yeah, need more people. Okay, have these people. Need more clients. And you just go on this sort of seesaw for a while. And then I started to realize maybe a year and a half, 2 years in, that I kind of had a knack for this. I had a knack for being focused on wanting to help people, maintaining that focus, that integrity in its purpose-driven mission, and conveying that to people and making them want to hire me. And what happened was I did the same amount of revenue 2 years in a row. And I was like, okay, and that's probably like years 2 and 3 or 3 and 4, something like that. And I was like, okay, I've gotten this law firm as far as I can get it by myself. I don't know what to do after this because I'm doing all the things, but it's kind of, I hit a ceiling, and I was, aware enough. So I started looking around, and Way leads on to Way, got into some different coaching groups. I went with Atticus at first, was with them for about a year during the pandemic. So that'd have been 2020. And I started the firm full time in fall 18. So it must have only been at most a couple years. It was probably more like 18 months. And I had done the 2 years in a row at $850,000 back then. That was, by myself, knowing nothing about nothing. That is not bad for only a couple years in. Or maybe I was gonna do 850. I'm sorry if those facts are not quite adding up. The timeline is out there. But anyway, so I did Atticus for about a year, and then it went on Zoom. Oh, that's right. I started with him in 19 because then we went to Zoom. And it was good. And then made me realize, okay, there's a lot more to this. And that's when I joined How to Manage a Small Law Firm, which has been extremely pivotal in my life and getting me going and learning. I learned a lot about mindset. I joined a group with them. It was a mindset coaching call. I didn't even know what the word mindset meant before that. So I did that for a while with them. And then, have Way leads on to Way after that, of more coaching and more learning. And more than anything, it's like when it started to have some success, I realized, oh, I can do this. And that's when I started to think, what kind of firm do I want? What do I wish for? And have those bigger picture goals. But I didn't think none of those thoughts up in the beginning.
So for you then, and actually, I guess it's really just a state of self-awareness. Like I've been stuck for a while. I want to be unstuck. Let me go find some people who are unstuck. So was it the community just seeing like what's possible that kind of broke those beliefs for you, or just like what ultimately broke the belief for you? Like I could do this. Was it just your own like kind of momentum?
I didn't have those beliefs to break. I guess the belief to break was like the very initial year or two of like, I'm going to do better than break even. Oh, it was that. Like, oh God, it worked.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it worked. Kind of like that is how it felt. And then when I joined that group, I just needed someone to tell me a lot of how, what do I do? I just know that I don't know. And that's one of my skills is like any room, any situation, whatever, I'm usually able to figure out who knows what I need to know and find out that person. And that was true for me of HTM back then. I knew, and actually Kate Lincoln Goldfinch, my best friend and amazing immigration lawyer, is running for Congress in Texas for House District 50. In case you're a Texas person, you can go vote for her. Anyway, she was somebody I mostly knew through online, through a Law Moms group we're in. And I was watching what she was up to during 2020. And I was like, someone's told her how to do that. Someone's taught her something. wonder how she did that. I'm going to ask her. And she introduced me to the group. So getting there didn't really break those beliefs. I knew that there was a way to do this. I hadn't gone to school to learn that stuff, how to run a firm. I'd gone to lawyer school and MBA school and all that, but I didn't go to run a law firm school. So then kind of I did, and I've gotten an education in that the last few years.
Okay. So like just the self-awareness, I think, is big. So then how did you, because I think so many firms I talk to are stuck in this. How did you get out of, and I tell people that this is possible, they don't believe me. How did you get out of legal production? Like, how did you stop going to court so you could then run the business? Was that also 2 horses or 3?
Yeah, 3, 4, 5, 6, little bit by little bit, one step at a time. To do that, you have to have other lawyers who work for you who can go. So one bit at a time. So I hired Raven, worked with me for year, 2 years. I can't remember exactly how long. She's a good lawyer and a great person. And I started being able to give her more cases and me take less. And then had room to do some of these other things. And then added another lawyer. And then by 2 lawyers, I was out. And I still had, some work to do and some responses, and was still doing some consults and like some stuff like that. But I saw pretty quickly that running that size of an organization took more than like my sometimes effort. And I'm not going to work 20 hours a day. I don't take pride in the grind. I don't take pride in the hustle. I a little bit object to the Hormozy theory that everything essentially has to be like really super hard and all you have to do is outmuscle everybody. Yeah. I mean, I think I understand their point, and I think there's something to that. If otherwise you are kind of like inclined to be a little lazier sort, I'm not. But I wasn't willing to do 20 hours a day. So hiring that first lawyer and giving them some, and then me taking less, and then adding another one, and then da 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 da.
And I love that because a lot of attorneys don't have that option, right? They have kids, they got, after school stuff. So how do you can't really work 20 hours once you start having, you can, it wouldn't be fun. But when you started offloading that work, what do you tell the firm that says, like, all the clients want to work with me? They come to me because they're referrals. They only want me, right? Like, and by the way, Hannah's firm is named Hembree Bell Law. So if she can be out of production and your firm isn't named after you, you could do it. But how did you do that? How did you navigate those waters?
Yeah, I mean, look, not every person, but a lot of people who call up here want to work with me directly. And I appreciate that. And in a way they are. Everybody up here is my client. And for me, I would explain to people, look, who'd come in and really insist, I'll pay whatever her rate is, et cetera. And I would get on the phone with them and say, look, y'all, or whoever it is, Susie, you do not want me to be your lawyer because you're going to need me available to you every day. You're going to need me to be focused on your case for hours a day, depending on exactly what's going on. You're going to need to be able to call and get me in the afternoon for an hour. If you want an hour with me right now, we have to talk next Thursday. I don't have the bandwidth because my job has changed into bringing more people who are on board with helping marriages end well and helping instruct them in the way that we do cases. And I'm still involved in every case. I still know what's going on. I still call balls and strikes when there are questions and still have that philosophy and set the tone from the beginning. But I'm like, you don't actually want me as your lawyer. No, you don't. And besides, Kathleen is better than me. She's a better lawyer than me. She would kick my butt if it was an evidence war. So why would you want me? I think what you really want is you trust me. And that's a good decision because I'm trustworthy. You relate to my story and you really get a sense that I care about you and the outcome for your family and that we're going to do right by you. All of that is still true. It's just that I'm going to get you with the expert. And my rate is also a lot higher. So it's going to cost a lot more money, but I'm here. Given that assurance, I'm here if things come up and things happen and whatever. But I think in some ways, sometimes people make so much of it for their own egos. I don't mean to call anybody out or hurt anybody's feelings, so up close and personal, but I think they feel really good about, well, everybody wants me, blah, 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 blah. I just don't take pleasure in that. I mean, it's nice, of course, don't get me wrong. It's nice to be wanted and needed and all that. And I also know legitimately everything I just said is the truth. Like these lawyers up here are smarter than me. They're better at it than me. And they're more accessible than me. So do that. So just explain that to them. And I don't know, it went fine. It just seems like it would be a lot harder than it is. And also, if, like, at the end of the day, someone was just insistent that it had to be me or else the end, no thank you. I'm like, I'm sorry, I just can't commit. I don't think I would do a good enough job by you and your family. And I wouldn't do it at this. But because then what happens is, y'all, saying yes to one thing means you're necessarily saying no to others. So if I said yes and took on these cases that might take, go to trial, like what that would do, what about everybody up here who's counting on me? And all their families who are counting on me to treat their people right, and their kids and their dogs who need dog food and all of this. If I'm underwater for 2 weeks on some sort of a trial and totally neglect the rest of the operation, what about all those people? So it becomes irresponsible, really, if you're growing an organization to still be knee deep in the middle of it all the time because you're not able to do the rest, unless you have like a great leadership team around you. And I'm not saying you can't practice. There is definitely a way to do it. I've just mostly seen people who kind of stay and struggle in that space and tell you all the reasons why it can't work instead of try solutions. Because I've tried things that don't work, and then you keep trying. Do something else.
So to get out of production, right, would you, and I feel like there's a couple schools of thoughts on this, but what would you say is a better use or way out? Would you say getting yourself out of consults first with non-attorney sales, which we'll talk about here in a bit, or would you say it's hire attorneys and offload the work faster that way? Like, what would, if I'm here in front of you, I'm like, Hannah, I need out. Tell me the best way. Who should I hire first?
Lawyer. For me, the reason why is you can't have a law firm without lawyers, at least as of today. So you need to hire a lawyer. I don't know. I deal with what is the fire burning me the hottest. And you got a real hot fire if you don't have a lawyer to do the work. And you've made those commitments to these people and they're counting on you. Their kids are counting on you. Their families are counting on you. They've invested their life savings in you. So you need lawyers to help support you getting the work delivered. My least favorite problem at a law firm, like knock on wood, I don't want to have to like test this out anymore, but is having more work than we can do. So that's just by my own sort of proclivities and fears and whatever. But for me, it would be the lawyer for sure. I'm naturally kind of a salesperson too. So that's easy for me in a sense of like talking to people and trying to help them and figure out if we can or not. I can get a lot of it done in 30 minutes or less, so I would much rather kind of stay in that. And it's not a long ongoing relationship. So if I'm helping you with a consult, that doesn't necessarily mean I see your case through to the end as your lawyer. So I think that you can kind of get in and get out and not create a year's worth of commitments for yourself. So that's why I would start with hiring someone else first.
I like it. So there you go. For a lot of people thinking about how to get out of production, because I know that's a big thing that I talk about a lot. Well, they tell me it's a problem for them. Before we transition, because I want to talk client acquisition, because this is the Family Law Growth Podcast, what was a key either investment you made or hire you made that was like one of those turning points for you in the growth of the firm?
It was the non-attorney salesperson. That's probably the most jet fuel thing I've ever done for the firm because I only have so many hours in a day. And remember, we've already talked about all these people and hiring and onboarding and bills and There's so many things. And I became a bottleneck, and also just the energy that you use in hearing everybody's stories all the time. It is so much on you. So hiring someone who wasn't a lawyer to help introduce families to the firm, intake their information, what's going on, and talk to them about the firm and how we might be able to support them in what's going on. So that to me was the single biggest sort of leverage point. I'm thinking of a fulcrum, right? Like the thing that tipped it. Isn't that what that's called, a fulcrum?
I think so.
Do you feel like, are you so impressed with my physics?
Yeah, I mean, if you know physics, you're doing better than me.
I think that's just a seesaw.
No, it's fulcrum with the lever. I think you're right.
Okay. But that's the single biggest thing that I did that really moved the needle.
For some listeners, they think that that's the most insane thing on the planet to hire a non-attorney salesperson. And I've talked about it in other episodes, but I want to dig into it because I've been hearing that this is the craziest thing. How does that work? How can a non-attorney possibly sell someone a divorce? How can they quote them? How is that possible?
Well, everything they do is overseen by legal teams. So they're not exercising legal judgment. They're not giving legal advice. They're not setting the retainers, right? Everything they do is overseen by your legal team. what they're doing is helping save this family time and money. And you call up to a firm and then you're thinking you need a divorce and you get somebody on the phone at our firm. Let's say you get Allison on the phone or Kyle on the phone, and they're going to ask you essentially like, hey, what's going on? And then the person tells them, okay, they're going to tell them everything that's going on. We're used to doing this. You call up to the doctor's office. Okay, what can I help you with? Like, what's happening? So they're doing essentially an intake. And I know in like our world, Elliot, intake, sales, that all means different things. But I'm just saying for our purposes in general, they're doing an intake. What's happening? And then essentially the goal of that person is to decide, yeah, that's what we do here. We can help you. I think we can help you or not. And the people we can help who have a problem we serve in a jurisdiction we work in and the means to honor their financial commitments. So kind of figuring that part out. And for us, it's like, okay, yes, they need a divorce. They live in Travis County and, people are employed. Okay, that's it. I mean, and I would have been with everyone and said, that is insanity. They have to talk to the lawyer before they ever hire them. They have to know who their attorney is going to be. I hear y'all. I would have thought that, except I don't pay people to tell me things and then totally ignore what they say. So at the time, the people I was working with and the coaching I was getting was telling me that. And I'm like, okay, I'll give it a shot. What's there to lose? Maybe they're right. Now, to be fair, I wasn't the size I am now and have to totally reinvent this fully established machine. So that would have been harder. But I'm a fail forward. I was willing to give it a go. So it just works, I guess. And I think it goes back to what we said earlier, lawyers, we're so used to the ego. And there are some people like, I have to talk to a lawyer. So we have an option. If they need to get legal advice or we need to assess the case more, or they really have to speak with the lawyer, then they can do a paid consultation to do that. The other thing's free. And the benefit for the client is, look, I'm going to pass all this information on to the legal team. And this is going to save you time, right? Otherwise, you'd normally be paying for their time to gather all this, but I'm going to give it all to them. And with our firm, it's not officially like hired until that initial strategy session is done. So they meet with their legal team and the whole thing. And because up to that point, they can get back and get all their money back, right? If they meet with their legal team and it's not a fit or they don't like the strategy or the plan, then they can get all their money back. But up until then, it's really just kind of, telling them about the firm. Okay, that's what, we work with divorces. Here's about our team. Here's about the Hembree Bell process. Here's what you're going to love about working with us. They're selling like the sizzle, not the steak, right? They're talking about the things that we do as a group, but they're not saying, and this is how we will handle your case. And this is how the law would work in your situation. They're just not doing it. And y'all, I know that people think that means that there's no way that people would hire, but like 95, Ellie, but 95, 98% of our people hire us and they don't ever do the paid consult, even though they have the choice to do that.
So you kind of just hit on it a little bit, but when a lead, because I want to skip to the client acquisition process for people who are considering this, when a lead enters the firm, we talked about intake and sales and like we're kind of using the words, what happens to that lead until they actually hire? So people can understand the process.
So they enter a contact form or they call the law firm. Okay, that's when someone becomes a lead. And then let's do a phone call. So they call up in the middle of the day, ring, ring. They call Hembree Bell Law, Erica or LP or Lou answer the phone. And like, thank you for calling Hembree Bell Law. This is Erica. How may I help you? And then they get some very initial information from them, just basically where do they live, kind of the basics about what's going on. And then their goal is to get that person to set a meeting with a non-attorney salesperson who's going to do a more in-depth, like 30, 45-minute meeting with them, gathering more information. Sometimes they can transfer them right then, but most normally they'll schedule a Zoom for later that day, the next day, something like that. Okay, so then they come in, they have the free case evaluation with the non-attorney salesperson where they learn about the firm and all the things. They can do their credit card and things like that. We use DocuSign to get engagement letter signed unless they come in person, and then they do that. And then at that point afterward, they are assigned a legal team. We staff all of our cases with, well, at least for the time being, as I'm saying this, a lawyer, a paralegal, and a legal assistant. So they'll know who the team is. Then they have an initial strategy session. That's what I was explaining. Like if anything in there, they don't feel comfortable, they don't want, they get all their retainer back, all the money back. Or it could be with a different team. If for some reason they don't quite gel or whatever, sometimes be like, oh, I only want to work with a woman. I only work with a man. I don't like his shirt, whatever. Then they can switch over to another team. And then, litigation commences. We did roll out a client success manager role. And that's, we have some room to grow in that area. But the idea is this is the person they can come to throughout their case if there's anything going on, kind of like a customer service perspective. So they would do some touch points with them along the way. Their intake team does various things to help onboard them. They have different check-ins and stuff up front to just make sure it's a really smooth start and a smooth transition, because we want to, if there are any issues, we want to know early and often so that we can correct those. We're really committed to excellence and delivering great results for the families who trust us in the most important times of their lives. So then, case goes forward, then it ends. And, they deal with billing along the way, and they leave, hopefully, going on to a brighter, better next chapter.
So let's say that people are looking to hire a salesperson, a non-attorney salesperson, which I think that you guys call them client engagement specialists or something like that, right? You don't want to call them a salesperson to the people. Where would you recommend, and like, how did you find these people? What would be like general, like how much do they cost? Should I go to offshore and hire a salesperson, or like, how would you find them?
You could. But for me, my first person, Kyle, who's an amazing human, adore him. And he was a sales rep for a tech software I was considering at the time. And I liked him. And I was like, hey, and I knew I was kind of wanting to do this role. I didn't even put any ads out or anything. And I was like, hey, if things, I don't remember, I gave him my number and asked him to text me. And I was just finding out if he was happy there. And if not, hey, you need to reach out to me. Keep me in mind, he was up for a promotion at the time. I don't remember what happened, but it didn't end up working out. And he reached back out, and I was like, hey, and he lived in New York City at the time. He was on a Zoom for a product back then. And he sure did. He relocated down to Austin. It was in person. This was years ago at this point, and he's been amazing, still with me, a rock solid, like key employee at the firm. And then each one kind of comes a different way. Erica is my sister's sister-in-law. So like I say, my sister-in-law once removed. So that's one person. One person, LP, responded to an ad for an intake person. Allison, I went to college with, and she got caught up in a sales layoff and posted on LinkedIn something about looking. And I said, before you take another job, talk to me. And then one person has been my client twice. And she said like, hey, she'd seen some ad where we're talking about something. She's like, if they're ever open up an opportunity where I could be remote, blah, blah, blah. It's like, actually, now that you mention it, and got her in that way. And then Blake sold me a hot tub in the dead of summer in Austin, Texas. So that's a no-brainer. And recruited him over. So I guess all the non-attorney salespeople came with some personal connection where I'd met him in real life. The only person who replied to the job ad was one of the people intake who helps on the front lines answering the phones, LP. She's been amazing. She is good. But that's the only person who did that.
So for the most part, you kind of just like knew people, you knew they were strong at sales. Because I think this is an important part too.
No, Elliot, I did not know they're strong in sales. Amanda was a school teacher at Blake. So that wasn't a thing.
How did you interview for that then? Like, how did you get an idea that like maybe this person can crush it on the front lines?
I am not a good person to ask about. I've been doing so many interviews last week. I'm a recruiter, not an interviewer. I love people. I always want to make it work and find a great opportunity. So I'm more of a recruiter. So what I did was spotted these people out there in the rough. Like, that's a special person. They got something. Now, obviously with Kyle, he was trying to sell me something. Allison, I knew had a background in sales. Blake was selling me the hot tub. So yeah, Amanda, I just knew, and she's got a real spunk in her and a drive and really cares about helping people. And it was just worth a shot to me. So I think when interviewing them, obviously sales experience, I'm so like a gut feel person, which has gotten me in trouble. So probably there's a lot better people to ask, and you probably need a rubric and you probably need standard questions. I don't know. For me, and it's worked pretty good, it's a lot of feel. But if I was going to recruit for the job, definitely some sort of sales background. Have they been under pressure? Do they understand what it's like to need to achieve goals? Do they understand what it's like to be up against pressure, that sort of thing? And for us, do they have any family law experience in their worldview at all? And probably not someone who's in the middle of a divorce themselves, because it's probably too much for them, whether they know it or not. But if they've had some sort of divorce stuff in their background, these kind of people, they're hungry, they're competitive, they're winners, they like to win. And more than anything, they like to help people. Are they a helper? Are they a people connector? Because that's all sales is, y'all, is helping people. So that's what you're looking for, more so over your super gunner, mortgage bro who, spouts at you all the things they did to make their numbers, and they just say numbers, 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 numbers.
Nice. So screening for that compassion and a little bit of the family law, like they kind of know what it's like. They've been there, done that.
Ideally.
Yep. So, one more thing on the salesperson. If you were going to tell a firm to hire one, because getting the right one really matters, especially for the first one, what would you tell a firm who's about to make that jump? Like, how should they go about it?
Make sure you're a client of Empirical 360, because they have sales for and can help train up and give some group coaching to them, and also help manage your numbers. One's the loneliest number in this situation, because they can kind of pull the wool over your eyes, whatever I'm trying to say. And the leads are terrible. Oh, this, oh, that. And so you're kind of stuck, because you're probably not a data person. You're probably not a lead gen, analyzer. You're a lawyer. We do that because we're not supposed to be mathematicians. And you got to watch that with them. So possible to hire two, but okay, pretend you're just going to hire one. I literally would make sure that I was in, and I'm not trying to be an empirical shill. I'm just saying that there's some kind of group coaching, and you also have the team at E360 watching your numbers and watching your stats and making sure that the information you're hearing from this person lines up with how you're spending your advertising dollars, and that you're getting a real good ROI with people that you can trust all the way to always do the right thing. And if for some reason they can't help you, they'll tell you, and they'll also have your back when it comes to the salesperson, because sometimes it can get kind of hairy. Definitely you want some sort of a script to start with and training. And honestly, Elliot, for me, I don't even know how it's possible that Kyle succeeded in the beginning. I am not a good trainer. I'm not. I'm good for a short time. Give me time to talk to you for an hour and we're good. You want me to train you something over a week? We're both screwed. I cannot do that. And I do something different every time because I'm so intuitive and I kind of do what's in my gut. So that's not the best way to train. So also know your weaknesses. And I think you know what I did? Pretty sure I just talked on speaker and had Kyle listen and kind of and I tried to formalize and write down how I did what I did, and then had him do that. And the team did the same thing until just a month ago or so. And we totally revamped the way that we do it because my way was no longer working. You're going to learn that as you grow. Some of the old stuff, what got you here won't get you there. Some of that stuff you used to do doesn't work. And that was the closest, kind of stings that my way, the thing I was kind of good at isn't working. And I had to let it go. So just be prepared. That's going to happen. But if nothing else, get them in the door, put them in the room while you're on speaker, have them take notes and organize it. Turn on now. Oh, wait a minute. Now we have ChatGPT. So take all your transcripts and throw them into the computer and tell chat, analyze these. Make sure you're using the team chat so it's privileged. You can lock it down and all that. But throw that transcript in there in a safe environment and say, analyze these 10 transcripts of calls. Create a script and an outline from the perspective of someone who's a sales director for a law firm that wants to blah, blah, do a good prompt and have it make your outline and then have it make your script. That's what I would do. Everybody has that. There was not that when I was doing this. So that's how I would do it if I was starting from go.
Yeah. And one thing, only because I know, Hannah's team for a long time now, that I think is really important is Kyle is, if you're going to hire someone, you need kind of a trailblazer, because the first one is scary because nobody's done it at that point at the firm. So like definitely he's definitely a great person for that. So one more question. If you're for the listeners, let's say they're stuck at whatever stage, right? Generally they get stuck around, like, let's say 750 revenue, maybe in the 3 million. There's a swampy zone in there, right? The swamp. What's the one piece of advice you would give them to get unstuck?
Who, not how. So that's the Dan Sullivan concept. And it's, I'm sure not even his, but they say it so well. Y'all need to read that book. I like listening to it. I like hearing Dan talk. Who, not how. And if your who's are right, the hows will take care of themselves, because them who's are going to do the hows. And I think a lot of lawyers get really stuck in the hows. And I think that's probably how I've been able to be successful faster than might make sense, is because I understand this. It's the who's. I found empirical. They're my who's for marketing. I found Christopher, who's my who for, strategic thinking. I found Kyle, who was my starter who for the sales group. And, and each person adds, and then they do what they're good at. I'm not good at a really lot of things. Like, there is a really lot of things that I'm very not good at. And finding people who they love that. That's in their zone of joy and genius. Let them have it. So do that and hire sooner and bigger than you think. Hire the best, but also don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Yeah, sure. We'd all like to hire 7-year board certified family lawyers, 10-year, who already know how to do absolutely everything and are used to blah, blah, blah. Sure. And those people are not just out on the street corner with a sign that says, please hire me, Hannah. So sometimes you have to get, crafty and scrappy and make something work. And like, you'll get better. You may also remember that if you're just in that very swampy initial phase that you mentioned, your hiring and what you got to do to get by and get going is different than the hiring that someone who's 4 stages past that can do. They have the luxury of a human resources director who can help with interviews and screening and blah, 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 and assessments. Okay. But you're busy trying to answer the phone and hire the blah, blah, blah. You're not going to be able to do all of that. And so I would definitely warn you against listening to people who are super farther away from you and how they do hiring and all the lecture they'll give you, versus you got to get scrappy and you got to make it work up front. Who wants to work for one lawyer to start? That's a hard sell. Those first few employees are hard, and it gets so much easier. But if you judged how hard it is for you to hire one versus how hard it is for us to hire one, that's not fair, because we've established ourselves over time and culture and all those things and benefits, and you're in the trenches. So be aware of that. Be creative. Could you do a 1099 at first? Like, what are other options? But it's who, not how, and solve the who's, and you've solved your questions, I think.
So my last question is, if somebody wants to, because first of all, everyone listening, Hannah is amazing. She will probably to her detriment pour into you, give you all the advice. So I want to be respectful of how they can contact you or listen to you or get into your ecosystem, right? But a lot of people really, really, once you get into Hannah's ecosystem, you'll see. So what is the best way for people to get to know you, reach out, get to understand how you do what you've done in the short time that you've done it?
Well, number one thing is to check out my podcast, Not Saving It for Later. Everywhere that you listen to podcasts, you can also go to notsavingitforlater.com. I'm sure Elliot will put it in the show notes to get there and sign up. So when you'll hear new episodes, that is the podcast guiding women through divorce and beyond. So even if you're not a woman, like Elliot, I know you've already listened to the first episode and I thought it was decent. So you could check me out there. Our social media for the firm is Hembree Bell Law. That's pretty client facing, right? It's very much advice and general education on legal topics. My own Instagram, Hannah Hembree Bell, on Instagram, blah, blah, all the places, TikTok, etc., is where I post sort of more of my personal stuff and more of the personal, a softer side of divorce things. So you might follow me on there. And DMs, and basically Elliot knows how to get in touch with me anywhere I am on the planet. So if you really need me, you can get to Elliot and find your way to me. And I love talking to family lawyers. Family lawyers are my people. I believe that we are on the front lines of life. Us and the criminal lawyers sort of like arm in arm out there fighting the good fight. The good ones are. And so I'm so grateful for everybody who invested the time to listen to what we have to say. And look, I have done it really wrong a lot of ways. So my counsel to you would be just to keep going. Just get back in there, and don't surround yourself with people who want to remind you of the fact that you got a black eye last time you tried. All right, thanks. Not so helpful. I'm going back in. Are you coming with me or not? And having that circle of people, like Elliot's one of these people for me, but like that close circle who supports you, who believes in you, who sees the best in you, who wants the best for you. And one question is, can you call or text or whatever the people close to you to celebrate? A lot of us can call people when things are hard and when things are crappy. And a lot of people love to commiserate. Misery loves company, right? But who can you call in your life to celebrate? And those are your people, the ones who are rooting you on and cheering you on. And they don't let your success somehow minimize theirs or make them want or envious or anything, but they are just like as in it to win it as you. And I know I have that in the Empirical 360 guys and the team. For me, I'm definitely that for them. But I think that's the other, like who, not how, and curate your close circle very carefully. Make sure you're in situations where you can get that support. And if you're not, you need to find them stat, because it will get hard and it will be difficult. And there will be days you want to quit. It's like I always joke, that one meme on the internet that's like this guy throwing his papers, right? And he's like, F this shit, I don't need this, and throwing his papers on Thursday or on Friday. And then Monday morning, he's like, wait a minute, I'm going to need those. So if you're not doing that in family law at least once a month, you're not doing it right, right? If you're not ready to just say, forget it, everybody else in their drama, you go home for the weekend, you come back on Monday, you're better. And the same thing, but you need those people close to you who are going to lift you up. And I have to say, I'm sorry, as you grow and as you start to want more for your life, you may find that you don't have any of those people in your world. You may have been part of the Misery Loves Company gang. And yet now, when you know better, you can do better. Number one, you can be that kind of person for others. And then just be willing to allow yourself to grow and expand and attract in those people who will support you. They are out there. I didn't know that back then. I felt lonely in it. And I found my people, and having those people close to you who are on your side matters so much. And it's the thing that will get you through the really difficult times. They'll come. I think the idea is to have more good times than hard times, I mean, generally speaking. And that you'll get through it, but it's a lot easier when you've got a friend by your side. Elliot, I'm so grateful that you're that for me.
It's true. The celebrating the wins, right? I called you up about the podcast, but I think what's important, and I hope that this episode and all these episodes help the listeners. There's a lot of social media BS out there when people are winning an award and you don't know that they're in the red, or they're walking on stage and they're getting a trophy and they made no money that year. And so hopefully this episode, and that's why I love having Hannah on anything we do, because she spits the real game. She tells you how it is. And hopefully that came through for you guys. And if it's hard right now, it's hard for a lot of people, right? But you just got to dust off, really, is my big takeaway.
It gets better. And y'all, once it gets good, you couldn't take this job and this firm away from me. You would pry it from my cold, dead fingers. Like, it's everything. You get to create a world and an ecosystem to employ people and give them hope and a future and fair wages and money and safety at work, and get to lead that team, and you get to create whatever you want. Like, good news, bad news, your life, your firm is 100% your responsibility. And it's 100% your responsibility. But for me, that is so delicious and I love it. And there were times where I thought I might ought to just go get a real job. I'm using air quotes, right? Real job. I'm glad that I didn't. So y'all hang in there. If you're not already a part of our squad with the Empirical crew, you're definitely going to want to get in there, because we have a lot of fun and there's a lot of cool stuff coming up, and you're going to want to be in the know and not miss out. And you may find that some of your folks you can meet in that way. So thank you to everybody for having me. Elliot, thank you for having me, and I'll come back anytime. I can talk this stuff all day, every day, day and night.
Thanks for being on, Hannah. Thanks everyone for listening. We'll see you on the next episode.